Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Sit back and listen to interviews, discussion about books, and anything else literary. There's always something or someone new on the show. Good evening, listeners, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Behind the books, honest voices, real stories. I'm Amy Shannon, and each episode brings you heartfelt conversations with the storytellers behind the stories, authors, publishers, and creatives who shape the literary world. And every second Sunday, join me for a story time where tales come alive for all ages. Let's turn the page together. Today we have, and I'm very excited to have this guest, we have the CEO and founder of Pro Audio Voices with us. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. I'm Becky Parker Geist, and I'm excited to be here with you, Amy. Thanks.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So, why don't you start by telling our audience about your company and, how your audiobooks, I know how they're different than others, but you know what I mean. So how are they different from, other types of companies that are doing audiobooks?
Yeah, thank you. So we are typically working with indie authors, also many small publishers who they just really want to get their work out there. They want to have a bigger impact in the world. They want to reach more people. And so the way that we help is through audiobook and podcast production, distribution, and marketing. And so one of the things that authors need to know is if you're not aware of it yet, then you should be aware that audiobooks are really hot, and they have been for now over a decade. But we're just seeing this ongoing continuous growth in audiobook listeners and consumption, if you will. And, so when you want to reach your audience, you want to reach more of your audience, the truth is that there are now lots of people who really only want to listen to books for many reasons. One of the reasons is they may be starting to find that their vision is a challenge and it's hard for them physically to read text, whether it's a print book or whether it's an ebook. It can
I have a similar issue. That's why I have all my authors send me PDFs so if my eyes get tired, it can read it to me. So right. I completely understand that. Yeah,
it's a big deal. And then others, they choose the format for artistic, creative reasons because they just really enjoy that additional performance level that an audiobook will bring to the overall experience. And then some find that it just gives them a way to be able to enjoy more reading, and we do qualify, listening qualifies as reading.
Yeah.
It gives them the opportunity to consume more books because they can be busy with their hands doing other things. They could be driving, they could be, traveling in any other way, doing the dishes, gardening, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a very popular format, and
something you mentioned, you said about, performance. And when I think about, your company and what you do, you have performers that are, not all audiobooks have just one narrator. It's,
right.
They're very amazing. I listen to several of your authors and, and write reviews for them. And each time I'm very impressed with, the quality of your work. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Each book has its own needs, its own flavor, if you will, its own, not just story, but the way in which it will be the richest experience in audio. And just some real easy examples of that are, let's say, we have a lot of books that are written with multiple points of view.
Right.
where you have one chapter's from one character, another from another character. These are so great when put into audio because we can hear that difference
Right. And
in
not get
the character.
confused.
Right.
Yeah.
Helps
That
us
can be
stay straight.
confusing.
Absolutely. And it really enriches that whole experience as well. And then, some books really just, they feel like, let's just say as a memoir, for example. Most memoirs are typically going to probably make most sense as a single voice narration.
Right.
And not always in the author's voice. And here's the reason why. I get asked this a lot, so I think your audience may be interested. Um, Many times I hear from authors, oh, everyone tells me because it's a memoir, I need to read it. Well, my next question is, well, do you want to read it? Because if you don't, or if it feels like, oh, that feels like such a big challenge, oh, do I really want to step into that? It's a lot of work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the truth is that writing is an entirely different set of skills
Right.
than narrating.
Yeah.
And narrating is a full set of skills. It is not just reading aloud, right?
No, there's
There's
that
so,
emphasis. And, yeah, I mean, years ago I had, one of my earlier books, it was on audio, and the guy did a great job, and he had all the sound effects and everything, but then was going to do a second one, and it was like, it got too hard for her, so she's like, I'm not doing this. I'm like, okay, and me, part of my editing process is to read my work out loud. So no, I do not want to do my own audiobook. I'll be
yeah.
sitting there going, oh, wait a minute. That's how I do my editing. That's one of the processes I go through to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's really valuable in that way, to be able to you really do, I think, experience, especially in the dialogue, you experience how well it flows and how natural it feels.
Exactly.
And with the narrative, you also get, when we're reading just with our eyes, right? So we're just reading text. I'm sure everyone has experienced that thing where, oh, wait a minute, I got to read that sentence again. Maybe I
You
need
just
to
kind of
read it
glossed
again.
over it. Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe you just say, okay, whatever, I'll pick it up in context, or I think I know what it said. But those kinds of sentences, when you read them aloud, you start to realize why they're so tricky to understand, right?
Yeah.
And so might be better as multiple sentences or just recrafted, right?
Exactly.
So,
That's why I do it, because I'm also forced to read every single word.
right.
And
Yeah.
that is something that is, we gloss over a lot of things. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a speed reader, though I'm slowing down, but, when I stop and slow down, that's when I know that this book is really, really good. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I
That's great.
love listening to the audiobooks, because I could just lay back down and just
Right.
listen.
Yeah, and then just to sort of finish up with the different things, the different approaches that audiobooks can take, then there's the full cast version, which is one of our favorites, and we are, our reputation for doing great full cast audiobooks just keeps growing, and so we're seeing more and more of those coming in, and they are such a delight. I love working on them. They're incredibly complex. But what you get with that and is this very immersive, enriched performance experience. And you have these characters and different voices, and you're hearing the actors actually, respond to each other just like they do in film. So it's
Right.
like a movie in the mind.
That's what I was just thinking. I'm like, it's like listening to a movie with your
Yeah.
eyes closed.
Yeah. And when we think about the production of it, some of what we also, and this comes into play, especially if someone's written a screenplay and we're actually adapting a screenplay, then there's this whole other element, because we want to think about, well, are we giving the listener enough visuals for their mind,
Right.
right? And with a screenplay, they're usually relying on the visual images. So we have to factor that in and make adjustments as needed so that the listener is really fully immersed and they don't get pulled out because they're trying to figure something out. Right?
Yeah.
But these work really well for books that have a lot of dialogue, very heavy on dialogue, and many times those are like action adventure, but they can be all different genres. In fact, we did a health nonfiction health book with multiple voices. It was just delightful, to
Yeah.
be able to have this, what we ended up calling sort of healthtainment, right? An entertaining, amusing, engaging way to take in information that otherwise can be kind of dry, but
Yeah. But no,
can be really fun.
that's something that you would want to listen to rather than read it. But I was just, when you do your production, and I don't want to know all your little secrets, but when you have more than one voice, for narration, are they all together, or they're reading their parts and then it gets put together, or, I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great question. So with if it's just a point of view chapter, so that
Yeah.
one actor is reading an entire chapter, including all of the dialogue, then they will record separately. But we do try to make sure that each of the participants, each of the narrators,
Right.
gets to hear what the other voices sound like. And
Oh,
here's why, is because let's say you've got one actor who's reading all of her chapters, and maybe there's no particular reference to what the other, say like there's a male character, and maybe somewhere in the text it tells us what their voice is like. Maybe it's a rough, gravelly voice.
right.
Um, and if you're only paying attention to your own part, you could miss that and do a tenor voice. I
Right.
mean, it'd be a female doing it still,
Yeah.
but you can have a mismatch. And so we try to make sure that the narrators get to hear each other, so that when they're doing the dialogue for their counterpart,
Right.
they can get as close as they, make it sound as much like them as they can.
That's great.
Yeah. And then when we do the full cast, where it is fully, there's different voices for each piece of dialogue, those we do record at the same time, although not in the same physical location.
Oh.
And what that does is it allows us to create a genuine interaction. And I always think of that as kind of like our secret sauce, even though it's not a secret, but it's
Yeah.
that special sauce that makes it so true. And I feel like, man, especially these days when we're just, everything around us, it's artificial this and artificial that. Well, this is,
Yeah. Virtual voices and.
right. This is true humans interacting with humans. And honestly, in a scene, even though, you might think, especially if you're not an actor, you might think, well, they would read it the same way. But, we're all different people. So one actor playing a particular role is going to read a line one way. Someone else would read it slightly different, might even have the same stresses, but the tone might be a little bit different. And so when you get the reaction to that line, the response, we can be right on target, because that actor who is responding to the line right before theirs in reality, the way that person said it. So
It's kind of like, that's like having real conversations,
yeah.
Even if you're reading a script, you're having a conversation. You're just not reading it just, monotone, and
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
whatever. And you can kind of get a feel for the scene. And also, and I think, and I hear this a lot when I'm listening to an audiobook and the narrations, and it's just like they are immersed in that story. So even though they weren't the ones that wrote it, they seem to get the characters.
Right.
And you behind their voices, you can, like, if I read a book and I can see, um, tell how much passion the author put into writing the book. And when I'm listening to the narration, I can hear that too, because it's like it's real. You know,
Right.
it's not, I'm reading a book or whatever. It's like it's real. It's a TV show. It's a movie, but it's something that, it's not just one note, I should say.
Yeah, because the actors, and this is where, we as actors are trained to be able to step into the shoes of that character, feel what they're feeling, you know, express the thoughts the way that character is. So it's this, we're immersing ourselves into each of those characters that we're playing. And that is something that, the people who are not trained in that at all, or just don't have experience in that, that it doesn't come automatically.
Right.
And it's also, it is a vulnerable art, right? The more that we as actors, and this is part of what we learn to do, is how to open ourselves up and be vulnerable and open to whatever is really going on with that character. And so um, that openness, that vulnerability is what I think makes it all the more powerful a connection for the listener to be, and to bring that listener, to draw them right into the story so that they also can feel those feelings and go through the experience of the character on, outside of themselves, but
Right.
to go on that journey with the characters. And
Yeah,
that's I think part of the great power of books.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And, I'm a big advocate for literacy, and
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, I'm not saying that, oh, if you can't read, then listen, but I think you should be able to, you know, do both and understand, because if you can't read, you can't at least understand what the meanings are.
Yeah. And
And
I'm glad you brought up literacy, because it's so important, I think. Um, and audiobooks can actually be a real help, like a tool in literacy,
yeah,
especially when the listener has the text also.
right,
They can be following along, listening, and their comprehension significantly increases when they have both. They can hear it. They can hear that reading fluency, which is important in literacy.
yeah. I know, that's why I always recommend that. I mean, I love reading children's books,
Yeah.
and I always recommend that an adult read them, whether they're reading them to their own child or just to read them, because it can bring you back to a, a place that you forgot.
Yeah.
And if you're always had trouble reading, or you can't read very well,
Hmm.
that those books can, if you know your alphabet, you might be able to just help yourself. I
That's
mean,
right. And if your own literacy, if you're struggling with, maybe it's a second language even,
okay.
children's books are a great way
Oh, I love
to
children's
help you.
books.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Do you
And
get in a lot of children's books on
we
your?
do. Yeah. One of the, people will sometimes ask, well, what do you do about the illustrations? Well, just from a different perspective, you could
Right,
say, if you had an audio script, you might say, well, what do you do about the sound effects? Like, it's just
right,
a different way to enhance a listening experience or a story experience. So images are one way that we're so used to in print books
Right.
for children's books to, to sort of build a larger experience than just the words themselves. With audio, we use music, we use sound effects, and these are then creating a whole different kind of, or adding to the story experience.
I gotta listen to some of your children's books, definitely.
They're really, really fun. And
that sounds so interesting, definitely.
yeah, we've, it's interesting also, I'm sort of thinking back over some of the more recent children's books that we've worked on. And one of the things that I think is really important and is not very common in children's audiobooks, not that there are that many out there, but it is a growing segment, and it's going to keep growing, especially as the parents who are used to listening to audiobooks, then automatically they just bring them into their lives for their kids.
Right.
But it's a real different thing for an audiobook where you're reading along and then you hear about a dog and then you hear a dog bark, and it's like it's just a sort of a dropped in effect. And it's not that that's terrible, but it can be so much more. Like if we really think about like that we're creating this soundscape for the child as they're hearing the story, and they're imagining it in their mind. They're picturing the dog, where it is, what kind of dog it is, how far away it is, all of these things. And if we build the soundscape to support that imaginative process, that's a different thing than just saying, oh, there's a dog, we'll drop in and bark here. Right?
Yeah, I know. And I think one of the, sometimes with screens and computers and tablets and all that, kids get away from their imagination.
Right. Yeah.
And my kids, when they were growing up, they made up their own games, and some I liked and some I didn't, but they made up their own games. And
right. Yeah.
and if they had screen time, it was, limited and things like that, because I wanted them to play outside and ride their bikes and play tag or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see kids, just people telling them about what's going on rather than imagining what they could be, and I think that is really important, because if you are a creative child, you will grow up to be a creative adult.
Yeah. Yeah. And creativity is it's like part of our, creative problem solving.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And this is how inventions happen and great advances happen, is because somebody's just noodling around in their imagination, trying to either just doing that on its own or trying to figure out, well, how could I solve this problem? And then you
or
come
how
up
can
with
I make it better? And
yes.
that's kind of what you did with when you brought your company online. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember the early stages.
Yeah. Yes, we've known each other quite a long time now. It's true. And it is very, very true when it comes to the distribution platform that we have developed, Amplify Audiobooks, because what I was seeing early on in the early years of my business was that authors were frustrated by the fact that their royalties were so low and that they had no control over their pricing. They couldn't do discount codes. They couldn't put it on sale if they wanted to.
Right.
And they never knew who their customers were. That is a whole set of barriers that were just like locked in to the audiobook world.
Yeah.
And so off I went looking for, well, there's got to be a solution out there. Somebody must have solved this problem. And they hadn't. I was fully ready to say, okay, someone else build the app that's going to let our authors sell direct, But nobody was doing that in any way that made it possible for us to tap into. So, and then when we did find a way for like a first step, we were like, oh, great, let's start here. And then, so that was giving us some controls back to the author, but we found that there were a lot of glitches along the way. So, okay, well, we can't stay in this. It's not really working. These are the issues. How do we solve that problem? And now I'm like super excited about this next iteration, because every time that we launch the next piece of Amplify audiobooks, it is a significant improvement and jump, and our goal is to really help our clients thrive.
Yeah.
But also one of our core values is community. We really care about connecting. And I think that stories are such a great way for us to both help others understand, help us understand each other. Right?
That's true. Yeah. I believe
different cultures, different kinds of people, all kinds of differences, and audiobooks really, and books can just really help with that understanding. And they also can bring us together. And so as we're about to launch the web app version of Amplify audiobooks, and just to clarify, we have a mobile app that's been live for a couple of years now, I think.
Yep, I got it on my phone.
Okay, great. And so, and that was a big jump ahead for us. But now we wanted to do more. We wanted to offer more options and opportunities. So this web app will allow listeners to listen on a computer rather than just on a mobile device.
That's great. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. And there's so many cool tools that are going to be available that are all about finding more ways to help people connect, to build that community. So as an example, you'll be able on an audiobook page, there will be the opportunity to just write a reflection. You might just pause the audio and go, write a reflection about what you just listened to. It's like journaling right in the platform.
Yeah, that's kind of how I write my reviews.
Yeah, great.
I take notes as I go through and what I think of them. Yeah.
This is going to be such a good tool for you.
Oh, great. I'm excited.
Yeah, and then you can either keep it private or you can post it to the community. Or maybe you have a question for the author or the narrator. You can post any of those, and the authors and the narrators can all be, and the other listeners can all engage in this communication online about that particular audiobook. We're also going to have like audiobook clubs where real people meet in real time, not, online still, because that way it's much more accessible to folks, but it gives us a way to come together and to talk about the different audiobooks that we're interested in.
Oh, that sounds great. I mean, I try to do book clubs, but, I'm always so busy, but I would love to be part of something like that. Because I think it's amazing. More people should, write reviews and, the reflections that they have. Like some people, it's like, oh, I don't know how to write one. You just write what you like or you don't like.
Right.
I just like to go into detail and give, so it could be like inviting people to read the book and how they write and the characters. I interviewed an author. Actually, he's an international best-selling author, and I was like a huge fan of his, and I got to interview him, and he he only accepted my invitation. He never does interviews, and then he said that he reads my reviews and says sometimes my reviews are better than the book itself. And he became a fan of me, and I was like, wow, I have a fan because he likes the way I write reviews. But he said I write them very similar to the way Edgar Allan Poe used to write reviews for books that he read. And I was like, wow, I, I knew I loved Poe, but I knew that he wrote reviews, but I had never thought of that. But it can be an art form, but I think it's important
Yeah,
that
it is. And you are providing such a valuable service. And, yeah, just the way that you uplift authors, it's so beautiful. And,
I just want,
that's really,
I hate it when authors think they have to compete with each other.
yes,
And it's,
yeah,
we're a community. Any author that I've read for, and as a term of endearment, I call them my authors.
yeah,
You know, whenever I refer to them, they're my authors because they keep coming back and
yeah,
want me to read their work. Or I get publishers that send me their work, or they put me on their list that they give authors, and they've been told, "Oh, you have to have her read your book," and they don't understand until I do it, and they're like, "Oh, wow."
yeah,
And some people will, if I'm like, oh, I put a little freeze, I'll have people, because I have to catch up, and they'll just be like, they'll practically beg me, this is what my book is about, and they'll like tell me everything about it. It's like, well, why do I have to read it now? I already know what it's about, but
yeah,
just for them to do that, and that I just think that they should, more people should write what they think. Authors can use that to know what their book means to other people,
right,
and also they can also use it as promotion. And before, if you wanted to do a book review, I started in 2014, but, you know, it was, they were posted in newspapers or
right,
magazines, and, you know, and you had to be a best-selling author to get anybody to even touch your book.
right,
And
yeah,
that was something that I wanted to. I met this woman on LinkedIn, and I was writing about the few books that I had, and she contacted me and said, I have some books. She's like, I'll read yours if you read mine. And I'm like, okay. And then we started talking, and we decided that we wanted to create something
hmm,
so that indie authors could have a place where somebody would read their book and then write a review. And she passed away, uh, but I continued
mm,
work in her honor, and Amy's Bookshelf Reviews was born, and it grew over the years because I changed websites, and now I have my own domain and all that stuff. But
yeah.
uh, authors
I
are
would,
like, can't stop.
I would love to circle back to something you were talking about with
Sure.
where authors um, about considering each other competition. And I so agree with you about that. That is not our best way of thinking about each other as authors, because really, co like other authors can be your very best help and allies with your marketing,
Yeah.
because you're all trying to serve an audience that is hungry for great content, just hungry for it. And I don't think any of us could keep up with the pace of what people would like. And so there's so much opportunity. And this is, in fact, also one of the things that we are creating more opportunities for on Amplify Audiobooks, is ways for authors to connect with each other so that they can help with cross promotion.
And that's
And
really, that is so important.
yeah, and
And you can
yeah,
get
we're going
one
to,
person to say, hey, I'll help you.
yeah, exactly. And one of the tools is with the audiobook clubs that I mentioned. So one tool for cross promoting is you could co-host an audiobook club. And if you're an author, you want to co-host it with another author who's also writing in your genre, wouldn't that be fun? right?
Oh, great.
But there are a lot of different tools that we're building in to make the whole to make marketing more fun. Partly because it's actively engaging with your audience, right? So it's not just about, oh, I've got to find stuff to put out on the internet. You know, I got to post things so that I'm out there. No, it's actually about like connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
People forget about, I always tell people word of mouth, and some don't even know what that means. But, if people actually talk to each other,
Yeah.
emails and technology is wonderful, and I can connect with people across the globe, and I have, and I love that I can do that. But I like to be able to also, like we're doing now, sit down and talk with them and just kind of, learn about them, and more than what's written on the page. But, we're human. We need some type of community, no matter what we're doing. And,
That's right. Yeah.
we should be lifting each other up, not trying to knock each other down. And I've seen
Absolutely.
things like, I've seen authors create a pen name that are similar to like best-selling authors.
Uh-huh.
So, and they write in the same genre, so that
Mhm.
you might think, and this happened to me, I thought I was buying a real Stephen King book, and I just happened, when I was writing, I'm like, oh, this looks not like, it was like similar to something, but then I'm like, that's not how he spelled his name,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I'm glad I paid attention, because I would have, thought I was getting something else, and if it wasn't that good, I would have been like, who the heck wrote this?
Right, right. Deception is not our best marketing tool.
And it's not. I mean, don't pretend you're somebody that you're not. I mean,
Right.
pen names are great, but, and I know why people had them, and I had some too, and I just stopped writing in that. I'm switching over to just writing nonfiction historical, books. Um, I've become a local historian in my town,
Oh,
so
cool.
I've published a couple articles which got me that moniker. And
Nice.
it's very exciting, and I love it, and I want to give voices to people that time forgot or time never knew about.
Yeah. And
And
what you were saying about like instead of not trying to be somebody else, like embrace who you are, because every single one of us is a unique human being, and we get to bring our own special everything into the
exactly.
world. So
I
we're
think
trying,
that's so important.
yeah,
Be
if we get caught up
yourself.
with trying to be somebody else, then we're missing out on our own gifts. So
Exactly.
yeah,
I like it. I always tell people to be true to yourself.
yeah,
If you can't be true to yourself, you're not being true to anyone else.
right,
And
yeah,
so that's what I try to do. I help authors. I give advice. I write books for references, so like all my experiences, and I put it in a book. And
yeah,
maybe it'll answer their questions, or they have more, but I think it's just important that authors know they can be an indie author. They can be a so-called traditional author. I've seen indie authors that they've had their books put into movies, or,
hmm
some type of play or something. And it's because they're that good. And
yeah,
when I get an author's, like, their debut book, and I read it, and it feels like they've been writing like it would be their 10th and not their first, it's
yeah,
just so impressive. And, I mean, it's not like before where you could just, you write anything and self-publish it, and that's what gave it a bad name, like the self-publishing or
yeah.
vanity presses and all
hmm
that kind of stuff, it gave them a bad name. But there are so many authors that sometimes they don't even know they have it in them until they just put pen to paper, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I had an author I interviewed. He's like, I didn't start writing till I was 60, or 70.
Yep.
And I, help them through the process because they don't understand all the new technology and things like that. And I've become friends with a lot of them, a lot of
Yeah.
authors that will come back to me and, or I'll help them with editing or things like that because I do a bunch of stuff for them. But I'm like one of the only ones that will do it on a sliding scale and
Mm.
for them because I know you can't always afford $20,000 for an editor. And when somebody told me that, I was like, what? I'm in the wrong business. I mean, how long does your book have to be for it to cost $20,000? I don't,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
things, what you are doing, I'm very excited. I can't wait because I like, using my computer more than my devices. I mean, I use my Kindle Max so I could read, books on that. I
Yeah.
prefer when I read to, I like to have the paperback or hardcover in my hand. And that's how I buy the books that like I want to read. And then, people, I just have them send me PDFs because so my eyes get tired, I can just read. And
Right.
whenever you guys send me authors, I'm like, oh, good, it's an audiobook. I can just sit back and listen. So it's
Yeah.
very exciting. So
Yeah.
you said, your launch is sometime in January?
Yeah, we don't have a date yet. We had hoped we were going to be able to launch in October, but that has come and gone. So, based on like we're meeting twice a week with the dev team, and it's getting very exciting to start seeing the pages and with all the incredible functionality behind them
Yeah, beta
starting to
testers and
emerge.
stuff.
Sorry?
Yeah, beta testers and stuff for what they're building.
We don't yet, but we will. We'll be reaching out to you
Yeah,
when.
I would love it. I used to, in another lifetime, I was a software tester.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you're like the perfect person. Super. So,
So
yeah,
yeah, I would definitely like to help you out, just
great.
test it and see, because I know what things that can break it. If it's going to be broken
Yeah.
or not, and just see, I would love to help out. So when that comes.
Well, thank you. Yeah. One of the first things we'll do when it's ready to start testing is, we'll let you know, of course, but we'll also be inviting like all of the narrators to, and the authors who are already on the platform, but for whom this will be a new, the experience will be
Right.
different. It's just going to be so much easier to use and so many more really cool tools that are going to be available. So
That's great.
I'm
And
just
I'm
kind of
sure
feel
you're
like
going to have more people coming to you to, do their audiobooks.
yeah.
And if someone asks me, I say, well, if you want an audiobook and you want it done this way, like, like you do it, I, support you all the time. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. And we love having you, review our clients' audiobooks because
oh,
you
some of
just,
them are so awesome.
yeah. It's pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one just recently was that I listened to, and it had to do with Hell's Angels, and I actually rewound the chapters a couple times so I could re-listen to it.
Uh-huh.
Did I get that right? Yep.
Yeah, the Hunter S. Thompson letters. That was
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah.
that was, and I want to thank you very much for being on my podcast. I love having you here, and any time, or any of your staff want to come in and talk about what it's like to be a narrator, or whatever they do for you, they're welcome to.
Great. Well, thank you. I love being here with you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and your following, your audience, your listeners, and yeah, we'd love to either me or one of our team come back, especially like right, after the Amplify audiobooks version 3 has launched, so we
Yeah,
can
that would be
share
great.
some more about that.
You just contact me, and I have a booking schedule on my web page too. So since I do all pre-recordings,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to close out now and thank you again. It's the end of another great conversation. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you, audience, for listening. If you wish for you or your book to be on the show, just go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Tune in here again next week for another tantalizing discussion. Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast.